Kravitz. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Good evening and welcome to episode 233 of the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your proud host, Howard Kravitz. Thanks for joining us on a special show tonight as we are going to cover the Oaklawn Late Pick 5 with the $1 million Rebel Stakes, a Kentucky Derby prep, along with the Honeybee Stakes for the lady 3-year-olds, and also some really nice allowance races. It's a fantastic late pick 5 sequence, and we'll be covering it here like a glove. Thanks for joining us. Please make sure you subscribe on the bottom right hand side of the screen. After you do that, please smash that like button. It would really help us here at the show. It will send people to this YouTube channel, and then also hit that notification bell so you know when new content will arise. You can follow me on Twitter there at the bottom of the screen at HKravitz, and of course there's my Twitter handle, and then email as well, hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. Listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. We've got great power picks. Look below the video player. $4 a weekend. It's over $2.50 ROI right now, last year and this year. Best bet of the day won last week with Nimitz class at Laurel. Had some other nice scores. We also have got Bet US is a sponsor. You can get some free money. You can see there on the screen. There's a promo code. Everything's below the video player. Racing3H is the promo code. Receive 125% free back if you deposit $100 or more. You got the NCAA tournament not too far away. You got golf every weekend. Great NBA second half of the season coming up. Check it out. Look below the video player for some free money to sign up through Bet US, a real nice betting platform. We also have a great website that Pete Visco has created, hhhracingpodcast.com, with a lot of good info. And finally, I want to also promote our, why was that not? Oh, there we go. It's scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Let me take this off as a scroll. Sorry about that. Let me switch this here. Crownsway Racing is a brand new syndicate for our show. They've been around for several years. Tony Rallo at Crownsway Racing does a fantastic job, and they have a new Series E sale that they're doing. So if you're interested in becoming a owner of horse races and good horses for horse racing, Crownsway Racing is something you got to look into. It's a $500 share to start with, only $500. They have no monthly bills. It's a flat 10% commission rate. You get paddock and winter access. They were 17% in 2022, over 55% in the money. They use Carlos Silva and Kelsey Danner, two very good trainers with claimers and 2-year-olds. They race in Mid-Atlantic, Florida, Louisiana, and the Midwest. And they've had some recent successes with stakes winner Smokin' Jay, a real nice sprint turfer, and a horse called Otago, who's an up-and-coming 3-year-old who was stakes placed last year. Look below the video player that you can see there. Anthony Rallo at Crownsway Racing. You see his Twitter, and that bottom link there is their website. Again, Crownsway Racing. I have recently bought into their partnership. It starts at $500. Really good people, excellent trainers, and up-and-coming, very nice horses. Check it out, Crownsway Racing. Highly recommend them. All right, we got some people here waiting. We got Michael Osen is here. I want none of that speed in the Rebel. Give me the Cox horses and the 3 closers. Ooh, maybe one of Paul Halloran's favorite horses that can close is a horse that Michael Osen will lose. We'll talk about that. We had Deanne said the past week is maybe think about if the new 3-year-olds can continue the success last year. We will see about that. And Donnie Marshall. Donnie, welcome to the show. I'm not sure we've seen your name. So Donnie, if you're new to the show, welcome. He said last year, or she, I apologize. I'm not sure if this is a man or woman. Apologize for that. Last year's Kentucky Derby winner didn't win any of the Derby preps. Keen observation. That's interesting, Donnie. We could talk about that as well. Let's go ahead and bring on my two fantastic co-hosts. First, from the East Coast of Maryland, Mr. Pete Visco, and our long-lost co-host. He's back. Don't worry. He didn't go anywhere. We miss him. We miss him. He misses us, I assume, especially the viewers from the Saratoga Special in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Mr. Paul Halloran. Guys, how we doing tonight?
Hey, Howard.
I forgot what you looked like, Paul. It's been so long, man.
That's a break for you, Pete. There's a lot of people who would like to say that.
It was even better than I remembered, of course. That handsome face. Come
You're
on.
the man, Pete.
Paul, we don't need to get into details. I hinted at it last week, but just let everyone know you are okay. Everything's all good.
Oh, no, I'm fine. Life gets in the way. I work, I have to work a real job to support my horizontal habits. And I just had a couple of clients deal with some significant crises last week. And my job is to, kind of help them say what to say. And typically it only happens to one at a time, but it happened to two at the same time. And I was straight out for the week, but I'm back and better than average.
Well, that is good. That's better than being poor. Paul, no $20 million races at Oaklawn, but the Rebel is a $1 million purse. Unbelievable purse for a Kentucky Derby prep.
And and it gets the $1 million is great, but everyone's trying to get in the gate. And more importantly, Howard and Pete, I'm sure this will be discussed, as I know, Pete, you have discussed it offline. I think everyone's waiting for someone to kind of step up and make a statement. I guess you could say Arabian Night with that last effort in the Southwest, who's now the de facto favorite. But, I think starting with this round, if you will, I guess we're in the semifinal round of preps, you would call it. I think everyone's waiting for someone to make a statement. But Howard, I saw the statement live in person in an allowance race at Gulfstream Park. So I am not waiting. I am not waiting, but other people are.
Speaking of which, do you guys know where I'm going to be 2 weeks from today?
Are you going to Tampa?
No.
NHC, right?
I will be on a plane. I will be flying to Vegas for the NHC, the National Handicapping Contest. My first time there ever. And, of course, I'm a contestant this year. Really excited. I don't have any great expectations, guys. I'm not really a $2 mythical win place guy. But I'm going to be with Matt Miller, a whole bunch of other people that have been on this show. Really excited to meet some people. I'm hoping there'll be some people, fans of the show and viewers of the show. If you're going to the NHC, please comment down below the video player. I'd love to meet you or hit me up with a DM. And I'll be a little bit busy betting, 36 races, I think, guys, total 18 each day. Some of them mandatory, some of them not. But really looking forward to the NHC, guys. That's going to be a lot of fun. And also that weekend, Tapit Treese, I believe that's the vibe I'm getting. I think it's because it's Dan Treese. So I don't know. Tapit Treese will be running the Tampa Bay Derby. That is that weekend of the NHC. I'm guessing I would assume, Paul and Pete, that the Tampa Bay Derby will be one of the mandatory races, unless there's not a lot of competition for Tapit Treese and they might not want to have like a 6-5 shot in the mandatory race. But guys, whether it's mandatory or not, I will be rooting very hard for Tapit Treese, whatever, that weekend in Vegas. I'll let the whole room hear me, guys, because between myself and Matt Miller, I'm pretty sure we have some of the bigger future bets on Tapit Treese going forward. So that's exciting. Siggy Mendoza, Siggy, where have you been? Am I betting the Saudi Cup? Pete, you must not
perfect
not get the memo from earlier today. Siggy, we had a full show on the Saudi Cup with my buddy Pete Visco and, of course, fantastic handicapper Davey Lane from the UK. So, Siggy, check out episode 232. It was a fun show. Paul, I'm not sure if you had a chance to watch it. You were busy, but I'm sure you'll check it out a little bit. There are some whacked out, crazy morning lines, Paul and Pete, and I cannot wait, Pete, because there's going to be even more bad money out there than I thought based on the U.S. morning lines, Pete.
Yeah, those morning lines were crazy. Everybody will take a look when they see them, but we'll see if the betting is more in line with what the expectation is, or I should say, if the betting is more in line with what we think it should be, and the morning lines are just out of whack.
Paul, I don't know how deep dive your average USA handicapper, if he's going to look at, Ladbrokes and look at the foreign pools, or I think a lot of them look at the morning lines, and that, especially with horses they don't know,
Yep.
there could be a lot of bad money in there, Paul. Really.
And you should be getting good pool. It's a worldwide pool, correct? Our ADWs are filtering into a common pool, so that's really the key. Tell Jim Palazzo it's a stunt double.
Okay.
But that really is the key, right? How with having the common pool, you need all the bad money in one place, right? So
yes,
it should be interesting. It should be interesting.
It will be. But we're here to talk about Oaklawn's pick 5, and let's get it out right now. Every time I have to mention it, there's a 50-50 shot of rain, Paul. I really think the track is not going to be dry, though. I don't think it's going to be raining. They said to be rain in the morning. Oaklawn has been, by the way, if you've been paying attention to Oaklawn, Jesus, it's like rain. They've been, every time I turn them on the weekend, it's a wet track. So I don't know. We'll see what happens this week. But they've got some great stakes. Guys, let's get right to the pick 5 as people are waiting. So here we go. Let's jump right into the pick 5. Let me go ahead and do this. Let me do this. Let me do that. Let me do that. And I believe also, I think, hold on a second. Do I hear horses coming onto the track? Yes, I do. Okay, here we go. First leg. Let me take the banner off here. There we go. First leg of the pick 5 on Saturday at Oaklawn starts at 3:36 approximately. That's Central Standard Time. So 4:36 Eastern Standard Time. They got an allowance optional 50 claimer. Non-winners of 2. This is N2X. 6 furlongs. You see this is a field of 9 with the morning line favorite number 6, Spankster, for Dwayne Lucas and Cabrera. Let me put our picks on the
Actually,
screen.
the 1 is the favorite out. 2-1.
Is there a 2-1?
Yeah, the 1 horse.
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad.
No, it's all right. They're close enough.
Yeah. Thanks for saving me, but that was a host fail. Flapjack 2-1. Chris Hartman and Juarez in for the 50,000. And here's our picks on the screen. And wow, we don't like the 1 very much as the favorite. Paul, let me go to you. You are going with the 8, who I have in 3rd, and Pete has in 3rd. And that is Albizu? I think it's Albizu.
I think it's Albizu.
Diodoro and Torres. What do you like about this horse, Paul?
Well, he had a very wide trip, Howard, and watching that replay, he was pretty much wide throughout. Christian Torres is red hot, won 5 races on Sunday. He does have a 90 and a 92 in his PPs, which I think fit well here. And, Howard, I got to tell you, you have to ruin it for me by talking about the weather because, my whole play this race in this sequence is predicated on betting against this morning line favorite, the 1, who is, however, an absolute wet track specialist. 5 out of 6 on the board, 3 out of 6 in the money. Huge pedigree by Oxbow. The whole thing changes if this track comes up, more than just a little wet.
You see that 0 for 10 too on wet.
0 for 10.
I mean, on fast dirt. On fast dirt, that's such a stark contrast. Sorry, Paul, but that's such a big one there.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know that it'll be 2-1, but he's going to be bet. And if it is on fast dirt, I hope he is bet because, apparently I'm not alone. Neither one of you. Well, Pete, I guess, has him second. But so I think the 8 had a really wide trip last race. Had won. Ironically, the 8 has run very well on the wet track as well, but I thought ran okay on the dry. Is got a decent record on dry tracks, but the 8 certainly also is not hurt by the track coming up wet. But I think the 1 could be helped significantly, and I hope that doesn't happen.
And Paul, we are thinking very similarly. I think the 9 is fascinating. I've got this horse, second Fitzpatrick, off a layoff for an excellent trainer in Joe Sharp, who's having sort of a rough meet right now at Oaklawn, only 2 for 32, but puts Johnny V in the saddle and has got some back numbers from New York.
This horse, Joe Sharp, 180 days plus, is 24%. if you make it a dirt sprint, it still is 14%. If you go to this horse's lifetime, obviously he's coming off a significant layoff, but if you go to the bottom of the lifetime PPs, the horse ran second, first, and second in his first 3 career starts. So running off the layoff shouldn't be too much difficulty. And Johnny V is 17% with Joe Sharp this year. So yeah, I think the 9 is very live, and especially at 8-1.
Yeah, I this trainer change is fascinating. He's definitely the fresh face here. Some things would have to work out for him, but Paul, you and I are very much agreement in that situation. Pete, let's talk about our top choice, the 6. I would take 5-2 in a heartbeat right now. I thought this horse ran unbelievable last time against a horse called Cogburn, who was fantastic, and also a horse called Life is Hard. I thought the race that Spangster is coming out of was very difficult, and I love this horse if he gets any decent trip Saturday.
Yeah, that was the concern. I mean, the one thing I liked, and I broken record when I say this, but I like horses that are improving. And if you look from about 4 races back, you get the 81 buyer, 83, 91, 94, and even the time form even likes some of these races more than Buyer does. So you're just getting a horse in form. The problem is this horse always seems to get into either a little bit of trouble or is just not there to get the win. And you see that 0 for 4 at Oaklawn, 1 for 5 at the distance, 2 for 11 lifetime. So that's the only concern. I think the horse is in form. Like you said, though, we need to get that trip to make sure that this horse can actually close a race out. So that's the only thing. So the Dwayne Lucas and Cabrera combo, 2 for 31 in dirt sprints at Oaklawn. So that concerned me a bit. And again, it just goes with this horse. It fits the MO of this horse where just can't get the job done and can't get to the wire. Yeah. That's my only concern, but I'm with you. It's a horse that I think is getting better. And I think if it runs its race and gets a trip, it's got a good shot.
Chris alone mentioned this, that he's major spread, sees the 5 go wire to wire. I thought there's a lot of speed in this race. The 5 is fast. I looked at the 5 real carefully. Guys in general cannot get the job done. He needs to go 5.5 or just easier. But he's a nice horse. I mean, if somehow the 5 gets loose, he is not as improbable as his name would suggest if he can get loose. Pete, let's talk about the 1. Okay. Now, Paul already talked about the 1. Here's my question for you, Pete. And I know this is not really fair to do, but I'm going to do it anyway. Let's just completely toss out the wet and dry track record. Let's act as if that doesn't exist. How good is he discounting surface?
Well, it's hard to tell. That's what the biggest dilemma with this horse is, and we always have trouble with this, is you look at 2 races, which are monster races. The last one was what got the lead and a pretty slow pace. The one before wasn't bad. It wasn't fast or anything, but it was a solid enough pace and sort of exploded and pulled away. But both are in the mud. So you're going, okay, this horse loves the slop, loves an off track. It's really hard to separate that because before that, he was fine. He wasn't great. But he's also, it's weird with these horses that they go from trainer to trainer. And obviously this is just the Villafrancos, and they sort of take them back and forth depending on where track they're at, it seems like. But still, it just gets moved around. There's not a ton of consistency. So I just think you don't know. So I'm not 100% sure. It's not a great answer. I don't think we really know. And I don't think I'm hoping it was a fast track to see if this horse really has turned the corner. But otherwise, if it comes up wet again and it runs well, he runs well, you're going to be like, all right, maybe it was just the wet again, and who the hell knows?
Paul,
what are your thoughts? Do you think one way or another?
Yeah, I have a strong opinion here, guys, for right or wrong. And I don't always have strong opinions, but I do with this horse. And Paul, I want to direct this thought and my point to you. Okay, the horse is unbelievable in the wet, all right? He was in for 32 back. Right. This is where I believe I've improved as a handicapper over the last 10 years, guys. And I wasn't always good with this. Intent. Okay. 2 back, he was in for 30. Now he's in for 50. Now he has to be in for 50 because of the condition. I understand that, Paul. I mean, where else are they going to run him? I see a lot of blue coated races here, Pete. He is not getting the lead in this race. Unless something weird happens, he is not going to have the lead. He's not nearly as good coming from behind. I also don't like this work tab. This work tab is weird. do you guys see on the bottom of the screen? I don't know if you saw this or noticed this. He was off a month, guys. Like, where was he? And then he's got a fast work, but it was in the mud. And then he's got a maintenance move. Like, this whole thing is just weird. I don't like the post because there's other speed in the race. I don't like that he's in for 50. I don't like that he seems to be dependent on a track that is wet. He's not getting the lead. Guys, I am totally against this horse. This horse is a C for me. If Flapjack wins, I'm in trouble. Paul, any thoughts about what I said before we move on?
I did notice. I always in races like this make note of who is in for the tag and who isn't. And in this race, it's the 1, 3, and 7. And then, you do have to kind of read the tea leaves a little bit, Howard. I mean, you look at it this way. They claimed them back for 30. They won the allowance race for 30. And now they figure, we lose them for 50. We made a nice profit on the horse. So I don't think they're going to be shedding any tears if they lose them. But yeah, I think those are sound points. And I also kind of agree with my friend Pete. It is hard to tell definitively, although, I think 0 for 10 in the win place on fast dirt gives us an indication. And while he's running a lot of tracks, there's not a lot of SAR and SA and DMR in the abbreviations. It's more IND and RP. So
that's
I'm with you, Howard. Maybe, Howard, we hope that it comes up wet and people beat them and we beat them. People bet them and we beat them anyway.
This is the weird thing. We'll know the track. I almost wish I hope the track is wet because I think he'll be over bet because it's wet. And I don't know. By the way, the purse is 106. So if he wins this, it's 65 plus the 50. I mean, it's $110,000.
They're doing all right.
So to me, it's less about the claiming. It's just other things. I don't know. I'm just against the source. We'll see.
The only real quick before we go, the only thing, and this may be to your point about sort of the slow paces, but in the last 3 races when he's sort of been at his best, he's now started to go to the lead more. So maybe there's a change of tactic that has helped him as well. And in this race, though, if he doesn't get the lead, that might cause trouble. But we've seen races where we think there's other speed and it doesn't come about. And then this one gets the lead and stays. And real quick stat, Hartman, 13 for 30 wins, 21 for 30 in the money, second after the claim in dirt races. So he's been red hot at Oaklawn. He's red hot second off the claim. So maybe there's something that he can do as well to bring this horse back. But I mean, I see all the doubts, and it's a great reason to beat a favorite, everything you're saying, too.
Just to be clear to people at home, I think this horse has an awesome chance to be in the money. I just hate this horse on the win end in a pick 5. I just for clarification purposes. All right, guys, let's move on to the next race. Race 9, you see our picks on the bottom of the screen, and wow, Pete. You see this, Pete?
Look at that.
Wow, Pete Visco and Howard Kravitz thinking hopefully brilliantly. We'll see. And Paul's really not that far away, you guys. Let's go to the next race here. And there we go. All right, 4:07 Eastern. This is the same condition, everyone. This is exactly the same condition. It's males. So this is split division, optional allowance 50, 6 furlongs, and 2X. You got more line favorite here of the number 4. Osborne for Moquette and Bejarano. However, every single person on the screen, Pete, you'll go first, is trying to beat the favorite Osborne with the number 9, Life is Hard, who, Pete, we just mentioned in the last race.
Yeah, we just said we liked Cogburn, and this one almost got there. And a couple things you like with Life is Hard, you could almost toss. You basically feel like you can toss the second back and the third back. The third back, there was a little bit of tough trip. It also, I don't know what happened there, but something went wrong with this horse. And then in the next one pulls up and gets vanned off. So you don't even know if 3 back, there was something maybe underlying there because it was such a bad race. I mean, it was a move up in company, but it was so bad. And this horse was the favorite and was just terrible. And now you were stretching out, and it had run well at 1 mile and a 16th. So I just like the fact, though, this horse, whatever happened, came back off that long layoff. It was an allowance, 105, this similar company, and bangs out a nice 95 buyer, runs a really good race against a really good horse. So maybe this one has just sort of gotten through whatever was ailing him and now he's back to the form where he should be. Plus, I like that he's really tactical, except for the 2 and 3 back. Otherwise, he's really tactical, so he could sit off whatever speed there is in this race and get a really nice trip because he's kind of quick early, but he's also got enough of a late kick to go by horses.
Yeah, I thought that last effort I jumped slightly ahead. You didn't even see the start. This horse broke like a shot. I mean, like he broke real well, and he's got more upside. Jimmy DeVito is a trained a lot in Chicago, guys. A lot of people don't know him quite as well. I know him well. This is an excellent trainer. Excellent trainer. I don't care about the 2 for 29. His horses run. If you pay attention, Paul, he's good with first time starters. This is just a really good trainer. We're all going with him. There's not too much to say there. Let's talk about the 2, Pete. You and I both have this horse second. Golden Hornet, Larry Velli, no shocker, speed. Fast, real fast. If he gets one slow quarter, look out.
Yeah, there's a lot of speed in this race potentially if you go by the time form, but I think this is the speed of the speed. I'd like 2 back. That was a pretty good field. It was the favorite. He was the favorite and lost, but it was still a pretty good field. Then comes back and then gets the lead. And the one thing I do like too is Bays, who's been ice cold, 2 for 81, but one of those wins was with this horse. So, and the 2 races that Bays was on this horse, he ran well. So the hope would be that even though Bays is ice cold, maybe he's got a nice feel for this horse. But I do think, speed of the speed is tough sometimes. And if we can get the break and we can get this horse on the lead, then I think he's got a shot to take them all the way around.
I actually think the key of this race is a horse that has no chance, Pete. That's Vulcan. Because to me, Vulcan is the one. There is other speed. I mean, the 9 can go, the 10 can go. But based on early time form, Vulcan is really the one that could really cause a problem. If Golden Hornet breaks well and maybe Vulcan doesn't, and the 9 and 10 don't quite. I don't think the 9 and 10 are like dead sends. Golden Hornet is dangerous. I think
but I think Golden Hornet can sit right off. I mean, I don't think Golden Hornet could be too far back, but I think the horse can at least. I don't think it has to be a wire-to-wire job. I mean, it wins wire-to-wire, but I think it's at least past horses a little. Well, it made it look like,
I think he's got to. I think he's got to be wire-to-wire personally.
Oh, I don't agree. I think because if the 8's in front, then I think he could pass the 8 because I don't think the 8's very good. So if it's just him chasing the 8, it's different. If he was chasing something that I thought was real quality speed, I'd agree with you 100%.
Okay. Have a beverage, by the way, Kyle Roscoe out there. Paul Osborne ran unbelievable off the layoff. We'll show the replay in 98 Bayer. I understand why this horse is going to be favored. I have reasons I'm slightly against him, and none of us have him on top. So, Paul, what is it you like and why are you slightly against him?
Well, I'm against him because I think he's coming out of a weak race. 3 horses have come back out of that race to run, all of whom have run off the board. If you go three lines down, he lost to St. Tappet. That horse started out his career 2 for 2 and lost 4 straight. Then, he did run right behind Anejo, who is a pretty good horse. But I think this horse is going to be overbet. Can he win? Yes. Do I have him picked? Yes. Am I going to use him? Yes. But as far as betting him on the win end in the race itself, no, not for me. And back to that 2, who I did not have in my top 3, but I will say that horse he outdueled last time was 1 to 5, and he did get past and come back. So that might, Pete, speak to his ability to go by someone because he was headed by Knocker Down, again, who was a 1 to 5 shot. And if you watch the replay, looked like a cold winner on the far turn. And this horse dug in the stretch. Now, I don't know if the rail was better that day or not. I'm not into the Oaklawn biases, unfortunately. But, I just got a hunch, Howard. I think this Osborne's talented. He's always around. I think he's going to be bet pretty heavily. And my hunch is I don't think that last field. Now, he demolished the field. But you know what? He was 6 to 5. He's supposed to demolish the field.
Well, watch the replay because you want to talk about a dream trip. Yeah. I mean, Osborne's the 2. I'm going to let it run, guys. This is what turned me off about this horse a little bit. He's on the inside. It's not a strong field. You see the favorite is really getting pressed on the inside here, the 9 to 5 shot. And he comes up the rail. I mean, he's a talented horse, but holy crap, guys. I mean, he's just sitting off of a speed duel, and the 3 just cannot clear the 1, who, by the way, was, guys, I don't know if you know this. Let me freeze this right here and put you guys on screen. Coincidentally, the 1 was the stablemate of Osborne in this race. And they decided to press the speed.
What a coincidence.
That's
a
good
tactics,
catch.
right?
I didn't catch that. That's a good catch.
Totally legal, obviously. And he just blows by his stablemate, and then he's going to blow by the 3. And like you said, Paul, like no one's really running in from behind. So he's a talented horse. He can obviously win Saturday. This is for everyone. No one's really like making him ground from behind. I don't know, guys. This is like where that number come from, Pete and Paul. This is just the horse that for all of us we're trying to beat, and this is the horse we're all going to use though, right? So I guess, is this a B or a C, or is this an A? It's a great ABC question for you two, and then we'll move on. Where is this horse in your ABC, guys?
He will not be an A for me. He'll probably be a B.
Yeah, I think that's what I sort of had, but that's more, and it's more odds based too. But because this is one where 3 to 4 is tough, because 3 to 4, a horse can make a pretty big jump. And if this horse actually did just make it, because it's not like, I mean, they put this horse right out of the maiden breaker into the springboard mile, then into the Southwest. That wasn't good in the Southwest, but maybe that was just, they learned that he's not meant to go much further. And then he's always been pretty good. He just hasn't been great. And now maybe, who knows, maybe he just turned a corner, but I think we'll see that. And that's tough to predict again. And if he does, then you're going to look silly afterwards. You'd be like, well, this horse maybe is just a lot better than these, and he's due for better things.
Yeah, the second off as a new turned 4-year-old, usually I'd be really high on this horse. But the trip was so good last time. I got to see it again. It's one of those I got to see it again. I was wrong about Pyther of Medina last week. Pete, kudos to you, I think, who, like, I was wrong. I wanted to see it again, like closing a little bit, and he did. He ran a fantastic race. This is just one of these horses I want to see again. I have this horse as a B as in boy, guys. I can't use him as a C because he might win by 3 or 4, and that would kill my ticket. But that's how I feel. Before we go on to the next race, we got 5 comments. Let me look real quick here. Chris alone is going 149. Darren Thompson, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Wishing me luck in Las Vegas. Christine Race is excited for racing this weekend. Christine, as am I and Pete and Paul. But Christine, we're always excited about racing, almost no matter what weekend is. Let's go to the next race, guys. This is going to be race 10. This is one of the stake races. This is one for the ladies. This is the Honeybee. It is up. Let me take the banner off the screen right now. It's the Honeybee. It is. Whoops, I was on the wrong. Oh my goodness, I'm all over the place, guys. I'm getting a little tired, Pete. I can do it. We're going to
power
the
through,
Honeybee.
Power through.
the power through, baby. Race 10. The Honeybee. Grade 3. Oaks preps race with points. Fillies and mares. Of course, your 3-year-olds. A mile of 16th. The morning line, this is a big field. Morning line favorite is the number 3, Grand Love. A very speedy filly for Asmussen and Rosario. And Pete and Paul are waiting with bated breath on who is going with what. There it is. Wow.
Wow, again.
Wow. We all must like a wet track and a wet horse and wet paint, who we all like. Paul, we're all going with wet paint. Cox, Pratt. This is a very talented filly. The question, similar to maybe the one in the last race, or sorry, 2 races back, the first leg, is does wet paint need it wet?
Well, that's a fair question, but the track, that was a drying out track last time. It was labeled as wet fast, but it was not, like in the slop or in the mud. It was drying out. I thought that was a monster effort in watching it back. I really did, and I think like a few other horses in here, but I really like this horse in this race. I will tell you that, and we'll get to Towhead. I know we all have a Towhead, have her on the board. She is a bully, boy. If you watch that last race, there was an opening at the top of the lane, and she just knocked the horse out of the way. So she's going to be a tough cookie, but I like the 7 quite a bit here.
Let's talk about the replay here, and we'll watch it from the about the half-mile pole. Wet Paint was in here against several others in this race, as you correctly mentioned here, Paul. We need to look at, so Wet Paint's the 1. You got Tax is the 6. Defining Purpose, who I think's got a big shot in this race, is the 3. Take Charge Brianna is a horse, a Lucas horse who I've sort of dabbled with underneath a little bit, and then Olivia Twist. But I think you really want to watch the 1, 3, and 6. And Wet Paint did get a very nice trip, as we're going to see here. Here's the 6. Here's the 3, Defining Purpose in between horses. Here's Tax. And here is Wet Paint, who's just saving ground the whole way, and getting a real nice setup here, obviously, Paul. But the way she finishes it, and she does it like so easily, this horse has big upside. I actually, at this point, am very interested in this horse in the Oaks, too. I think this horse could be a serious horse, Pete. Paul, sorry.
Yeah, and I'll tell you how it was a good trip, but it wasn't. She's closing not into a rocket pace. 48 for the half.
Look at the stride. Look at the way she's reaching out. Look at this reach, Paul. This is like
got me,
monster strides here. Holy crap!
I encourage people to go back and watch the entire race, because Pratt does not ask this horse to run one step before the 3/8 pole. He is sitting at the last place, back of the field, not that far back. He was definitely in touch with the field. He does not have a hint of asking this horse for a run until the 3/8 pole. And then, as you said, once she takes off, she just takes off. And she looks like that 9 furlongs on the first Friday in May won't be a problem. But I like her a lot here.
She might like the wet because her Dam Sky Painter was a nice turf horse, and a lot of turf horses can run well on wet. I think at least that's my one. And 404 Tomlinson for Sky Painter, and a 417 Tomlinson, this number here at the top, on wet. But guys, the horse just came off of 59-4 breezing on fast. I do not think this horse needs a wet, and whether it's wet or dry, Pete, I think this horse will get the right setup, and 7-2 would be a bargain. In fact, I would probably go as low as 5-2, maybe even 2-1 on the win end in this horse. I don't know how much, if you like this horse as much as Paul and I do. I mean, I know we have her on the win end, but I mean, I really like her too.
No, I'm in full agreement. I don't really have too much else. And I do think the other thing is, again, based on time form, there's a decent amount of speed in here. So it looks like there could be some pace. This horse hasn't ever really gotten a ton of pace to run into. And with that kick, and with the fact that, the distance is no problem for her, if she can actually get some pace in front of her, then this is a kind of field she could roll by, especially if she gets a decent enough trip and again, it heats up. I think I love her too. I'm with you guys 100% on that. For you, Kyle.
I'm a little surprised you guys are against Defining Purpose, only because that last race, I'm not going to go back to it, but she was doing a lot of the dirty work. I know she only got a 72, but I think Cabrera learned something last time. And if you look two back, guys, Defining Purpose ran a better race stalking and closing. I think Defining Purpose is actually going to come off the pace on Saturday. I think Defining Purpose has a chance to run better, but the two of you are going to go with Towhead in second. Pete, real quick, your thoughts on Towhead, who bullied her way through, as Paul mentioned last time, to get the win.
Real quick on Defining Purpose. The only thing I didn't like about her was I just think Wet Paint and Taxed are better. So on the win end, especially in like a pick 5 on like the A line, why do I need this horse if I already think Wet Paint is better? Then sure. I don't need this one. Plus a weird stat, the 8 hole at this configuration, 0 for 43. So
what's the 9 hole? 10 for 30? 10 for 20?
No, it wasn't. It was better than that. And actually the 10 hole was, I think, 0 for like 19, but 0 for 43. I was like, yeah, maybe it's jinxed or something. Who the hell knows? Maybe
fair enough.
Maybe there's something there, but that was the reason why I didn't go with that one. This one, I think this horse, it looks to be good. I mean, once it started routing, you see like 3 back and it gets second, comes off the turf, gets second in the slot, then breaks the maiden, then jumps up, and Beyer jumps way up too. So now you get an 82. The only issue is that was sort of a really big jump, but it was, you're going from 2 to 3. It's a few months later. That could be the reason. this horse also was blocked. I don't know if you wanted to show that replay, but was sort of blocked and had to come outside a bit. And actually, I thought maybe even lost a little bit of ground and still blew by the field. The field wasn't very good. I don't think it was so-so.
No, it was not very good.
Who cares if you're just trying to get a horse to now run well?
Yep.
One other thing is it was by far its best race, and it was with Lasix. Now we have no Lasix again. I'm never good with figuring out if that means anything.
Yeah, I have no fucking
But
idea.
it fired an 82 with Lasix when it hadn't touched the 71 on the turf. So again, I don't know if people care about that one way or the other, but it's just something to think about. And then I did say Maker at Oaklawn in graded stakes 0 for 8. I don't know. Maybe he just doesn't love it there, or he's not sending the right horses. So
it's because they don't have turf, Pete. They don't have turf.
That's true. I know. That's true. So he's got to send some dirt horses here. They don't seem to fare as well, Paul. So who knows? But I mean, I think it's a good horse. And again, if she's improving enough, she definitely has the ability to beat this field.
We're going to move on, but there are some interesting horses I just want to mention for the viewers. You've got the 1 and 3rd at 20-1, Effortlessly Elegant for Norm Cassie, who freaked in the slop and's got the rail and speed. We've seen crazier. No, Pete, that's not.
No. It's so funny. We keep getting these horses that run their best race on the wet, and you just you don't know if that's what it has. A 439 Tomlinson she has. So I'm like, is that what did it? I don't know. But the first race had a tough trip, steadied, comes back at 3, and just fires a fantastic race. Looks like from a breeding standpoint, the distance should be fine. I mean, it's a $475K purchase. So there's a lot to like about this horse. So I was like, at 20-1, I'll put this one on my ticket and be happy about it. So
Paul, no love for anyone with grand love, Paul. This is the speed of the speed with Rosario and Asmussen.
Yeah,
and all of us are just tossing her. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a very long layoff, first start of the year. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if she's going to get to the lead on her own and Rosario can milk it, that's fine. I don't think that's going to really occur. I think the one has got to go from in there. Who's someone points out accurately. I don't think that one is going to be close to 20-1. I think the way Norm Cassie's only winning at 53% at Oaklawn. But the horse I would tell people to take a look at for the board, Howard, there's a couple of them. We talked about the 6, but I think the 9, we talked a lot about Towhead, but the 9 closed pretty well to run second at Towhead. And I think the 9 could be one of Uncle Howard's reverse tri-key horses.
Okay. She's interesting. I just want to throw there is a guy called Todd Pletcher who's in this race, guys. That I am not going to let Todd Pletcher beat me, guys. It's just I have her as a B. I want to put us all on screen. Here's what we've seen in the spring. If you're paying attention at home, and I know you guys are paying attention, these Philly preps have been weird. The Wonder Wheel loss, guys. I don't trust a lot of favorites. Now we all love wet paint. But for me, it's like either wet paint or throw your hands in the air. I don't know. If wet paint doesn't fire or whatever, I think there's a lot of horses that can win this race. I just don't. That's my vibe. Do you guys feel the same way about this race?
I have you mentioned that 4. I have the 4 as an A actually on my my top line. Well, so that was another one.
I'll let you talk about her and we'll go on to the next race. Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, real quick, I'll try and go. I mean, it's Pletcher picks up Ortiz in that last race. Occult is a good horse, and Occult sort of got away, and Gambling Girl didn't. It was one of those races where the horse gets away enough where even if you run a good race, you're not going to get to the horse. But the ride was weird. Saved ground the whole way. Looked like it was getting a perfect trip into a pretty decent pace. And then instead of coming up the rail, swung outside again late. And I don't know if that loses just enough momentum, but I think wasn't catching Occult anyway, who was the 7-5 favorite.
But I just thought that you're talking about.
Yeah, so I just thought the rail. I thought if you're going to save ground and you're going to stay on the rail, let's use that and just sort of cut in because the 4 was dead. The 4 is a bomb. The 4 was cut in hot fractions. Now I guess you don't know.
You want her to come up in here, right, Pete? Is that what you wanted?
You come up in there because you got the spot there, and I think maybe Irad bullies his way through a hole like that. Obviously, I mean he has no qualms about doing that. So you swing a little bit, and maybe you lose ground, and the 2's good enough to just get the jump and get away from you.
Yeah,
and get away from them, and then Pletcher. I mean, it's Pletcher picking up Ortiz. Pletcher at Oaklawn in graded stakes, 31%, 54% the money. So obviously he could bring horses here. He hasn't run in this race though, which is funny. He hasn't run this race in the last 5 years. Yeah. So now he's bringing this one, and it's a Rapoli Pletcher with Irad morning line 12-1. That's, if that horse wins, you'd be like, shoot, I can't believe I didn't have that one on my.
I'll tell you what I don't like though. This horse looked very grindy. Like you would expect some kind of explosion in the stretch, and she's just like blip blip blip. Like I don't know that. What I hadn't watched that replay yet because I can't watch every single replay out there. I didn't like what I just saw. Although I do agree that she could have come up the inside, and Aqueduct's a slow track this winter. Blah blah blah. She did, by the way, finish second to Julia Shining 2 back also.
That was a good race.
That was a slow race too. So she just hasn't run that fast yet. Like you compare that stretch run, Paul, to the wet paint stretch run. It like looks like night and day to me visually.
Yeah, the speed figures is what kind of got me. Top last time is 73, but it is an interesting move. Todd doesn't ship out there a lot, and either they think that this is the way into the this is the route to the Oaks for this horse, because we talked about wet paint and we like wet paint, but I was going to say it's not a monster field, but is there any 3-year-old filly race this year that we would say is a monster field? So I think it's an interesting move. Irad on board. Irad's also picks up Giant Mischief in the next race that we'll talk about. But I mean, I'm not going to get beat by a New York bred either, Howard. I mean, I'm dumb, but I'm not stupid.
Christine Race, we agree with you. It's really important to watch replays, and we love the show too, by the way. Donnie Marshall, paying attention. You guys are great. Thank you very much, Donnie. Really appreciate that. David Baristas here. Is Sin de Dirt the new Derby? Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I don't know who he has in mind. And Noah, no, you're not a child. You are almost a full-blown adult, sir. So, of course, Noah, for those who don't know, is a student at University of Kentucky. Okay, guys, let's move on. This is the Rebel. We're not going to be rebels. Let's move on. We got a big crowd, by the way. If you're watching live, thank you very much for watching. Please comment in the live chat. And Pete and Paul, I don't know if you guys look at our numbers, but we are over 1.8 thousand. We're up to 1820s in subscribers. I'd love to get to 2K, guys, as soon as possible. We need your help out there, though. We can only get to 2,000 subscribers on YouTube if you hit that subscribe button. And Pete and Paul, I know for a fact we have a lot of people that watch the show but have not subscribed. If you are not familiar with YouTube, or you're like afraid because you think it's going to cost you money, or you're going to get all these crazy like emails, it costs you nothing. All subscribing does is it tells the YouTube generator this is a good show to watch, and it brings other people to our show. It also helps us with ad revenue and a lot of other things. So please hit that subscribe button. It costs you nothing. You won't be bothered by us at all. It's just to help us out, along with the like button and some other things. So
yeah, it's not a paid subscription. I think that's what throws people off sometimes. They think
see
it's
that
a paid
word.
Subscription. It's a bad word for
and,
that.
And for those who are watching and don't subscribe, we're just simply going to start going door to door. So it'd be a lot easier to subscribe before you get that knock on the door.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
Paul Howard will do that. Okay,
that's actually what Paul's been doing the last two. That's what he's been doing the last 2 weeks. He hasn't been working. He's just been knocking on doors.
Paul, will you knock on the doors of Italians, though?
I'm half Italian.
Hey, Paul.
All right.
Paul, by the way, when Davey Lane came on the show earlier, he popped up and he had an Italian beer for our show specially. So that was to rub it in Howard's face. So he made a point of noticing that, of letting us know that he was drinking an Italian beer.
I will definitely watch that because I want his opinion on anything overseas. Yeah. There's a few key people I lean on those, and he's at the top of the list. Michael Adolphson is great with those races. Kelly Riley. So I will be consulting before I put my shekels down Saturday morning.
Well, just again, he's referring to episode 232, which we actually taped earlier this afternoon. I highly recommend everyone, if you have any interest in betting the Saudi Cup card, and it's a really nice card. It's a whole bunch of Group 3s. Of course, the $20 million Saudi Cup. Watch episode 232. Davy Lane is as sharp as they come. I deep dive into that card as well as Pete. We watched a lot of replays. Paul, we did a lot of homework. There's like 20-1 and 15-1 shots morning line in these horrible PPs that, when I say horrible, I mean the morning lines. There are prices. You can make a ton of money on Saturday, really. So I'm excited about Saturday morning. Guys, I'm also excited about the Rebel. It's a $1 million Kentucky Derby prep. It is a 50-point Derby prep. Speaking of Derby prep, if you weren't here earlier in the show, Tappa Trice is going to the Tampa Bay Derby. Paul and I have some financial interest in that horse, as well as Jim Plars, a lot of other people. I think it's a great spot, by the way, Paul, by the Pletcher camp to put him there. But we can talk about that later. Let's talk about the Rebel. You see our picks on the bottom of the screen. Pete and Paul, last week we said, and I'm not gonna apologize, but I'm gonna say that I was wrong. I thought the Risen Star could be a serious Derby prep. It was meh. I mean, we were very good, Pete, with our predictions of what was going to happen. But I think the buyer was 86, that Angel of Empire.
87
Angel
tops,
Empire.
maybe. Yeah, something like that.
This race here, this Rebel, if this is not a mid-90s buyer for the winner, I'd be shocked. I think this is...
Wait, we got to get him in one of these freaking races, right? One of these races.
No, we don't need... Just let Tappa Trace just run. Everyone else just fall apart, Paul.
Well, no,
right?
you don't want him to be too much. He'll be the favorite at the rate we're going.
It doesn't matter.
What the hell do we care? I got 60-1, baby, on this horse. Who cares?
You're still
Let
going
me
to bet
2
him
to
on.
5.
You're still going to bet him on game day. Don't act like you're not going to bet him on game day too.
I don't know. I've already got a lot of interest. I don't know. Anyway, people
You're
want to talk about
bet him on top of triples and all that kind of crap.
Yeah,
and you want him to be in the pick 5 and everything. So
let's talk about the Rebel, guys. Real nice Derby prep. This is a $1 million purse. It's just incredible what Oaklawn puts up here. Nice to have a casino, boys, at the racetrack. 1 16th, of course, for 3-year-olds. It's a field of 11. The morning line favorite is the rail horse. Number 1, Verifying. Cox and Drew. Now, Cox also has the 5, Giant Mischief, who is the second choice. And no, he's got those 2. There are several Asmussen. There's 3 Asmussens in here. All the big guns are coming. Paul, we're going to go to you first. You and I have the same horse. It's the horse that Pete has second. This is a very likable horse. This is a very good horse. The number 1, Verifying, is who you have on top, Paul.
Yeah, I again, not necessarily loving betting the favorite in a race like this, but I think the horse, I don't know that he needed to win last time. Last time was obviously just a comeback race and to get prep for this race, but it was, they bet him and he won the right way. And that race has come back strong. 2 horses who ran in that race, including Gun Pilot, who was in this race, have come back to win. On this circuit, Giroux is kind of Cox's number 1 guy. We're looking at Mr. Verifying right here, and he is going to go by right about here and make short work of the rest of these horses. He's head and head here, but now he's going to be 3 on top, and he's second now, and he really wins the right way.
This is Gun Pilot, and this is so I can't remember the name now.
2 Eagles River.
2 Eagles River, who came back to win.
Came back and won. Yep.
Yeah.
So the race, with Pete, we're looking for a big number. That came back at a 97. Hopefully not too high. That would be the only concern. To come back with a 97 in the first start of the year. There is bounce concerns. Although I like the fact Cox has put 4 workouts into this horse since then. That should take the edge off. I think this horse is a contender not only today but moving forward.
I take it back, guys. The second place horse in that replay, the 1 was Gun Pilot, and that was 2 Eagles River, who finished 3rd, who came back and won. Sorry about that. I don't have too much to add. I know Pete's going to talk about the breeding a little bit. So, Pete, I'll let you talk about the breeding because these Justifies have been quite interesting. Pete, I'll let Pete talk about it. I sort of forgot what kind of competition Verifying was in last year. I mean, guys, Verifying was in serious in the Champagne against Blazing Sevens. I watched the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He broke a little bit slow and just didn't fire. That's sort of a toss out to me.
Well,
Um,
Rosario was awful that whole weekend with rides where he was taking horses that needed to be closer and just weren't. And this
yeah,
horse was one of them. And it just, I mean, I don't know if it would have made much of a difference, but I didn't
Well, he
like
had
the
no.
ride.
Put it this way, Pete. He had no possible chance to win the race.
Yes.
Ridden like that.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that.
my only concern with verifying in this particular race, forget about the Derby right now, Pete and Paul, just for this race, is there is a ton, and I mean a ton of early speed on at least on paper. My question is, can this horse win closing from 6, 7, 8 lengths back? That's my only question in this race. I mean, he can, things, shit happens, guys. Maybe it's going to be sloppy, although he's handled it. I mean, whatever. Other than unusually bad trip and stumbling, my only question in this race, Pete, is can he close from further back? Because he hasn't really proven that. That's my
I
only
mean,
question.
you have to have faith that you think he can, or
Yeah.
you don't play him. But otherwise, I mean, that isn't that the same with a lot of these horses? Because a lot of them in their earlier races, they're the better horses. They're usually a little bit closer. And what happens is you face a little adversity where that's a good point, Deanne, too. We have another one where the monster buyer jump came with Lasix. There's other reasons why it could have been, but
Yeah.
again, who knows? Now we're back off, but it's not like he was bad without Lasix. So, but
David,
yeah,
have fun at Oaklawn, by the way. I'm jealous.
yes.
And here now, Pete, this is what we need to talk about. Jim Pilar says
This.
it seems Justifies Offspring are having trouble winning at a route. Now he's already won at a route. Let's be clear, and that was a 2-turn race we just watched. So
Well,
I
here's
guess
the
the
thing.
question is it the mile 16th that you or Jim might be worried about, or is it the Derby that we're worried about?
Well, if you look at if you dig into, and if you look at sort of the breeding, if you click on you don't have
Let's
to do
do
it
it.
now, but if you,
No,
you
let's
click
do it.
on Justify and sort of go through the top 20 progeny, he's got better. If you look at his numbers there, it's got his dirt route numbers look better because they win up to a mile,
Yep.
but they're 2 for 24 over a mile. And again, I don't know if that means anything. It's not a huge sample size. He's a young sire. He hasn't necessarily had the greatest of horses just yet. So maybe this one could buck the trend. But at some point it becomes something to worry about.
Yeah.
I don't know what the breaking point is when that happens, but it's just something to think about, especially when you're talking about the favorite in a race that has there's definitely other options in here. Yeah, we do
This
have
is where I push back with this horse can't get the distance. I don't know about the Derby. I have no idea. This is a half to Midnight Bisou, guys. There is a lot of depth and distance on the dam side. That would be my pushback. But I for this race, I think we're overdoing it with the breeding in this
you're also
race.
I have that. I did my half-assed Derby top 10 that I posted, and I have
I like that.
verifying at like 4 or 5 because I really love this horse. I liked this horse last year. I liked him in the juvenile. I was sort of pissed when he got that crappy trip at 16-1, 17-1. So I like this horse, so I could look past whatever breeding questions because of what you said. The dam side looks like that's going to hopefully carry it beyond.
Pete, you're going with Giant Mischief, and I totally get it. Triple Crown nominated. The Springboard Mile, we're going to show the start because that was absolutely horrendous start. I have even more questions about Giant Mischief, though, with his distance situation because the dam side is Vertical Oak, who is a very nice horse, but purely a sprinter, okay? Hasn't produced anything going 2 turns, and he was really good 2 back at Keeneland when he beats Arabian Lion. I was there, actually. That was Breeders' Cup weekend and did it well. I know the Springboard Mile, Pete. I'll bring you on screen here. I know he got a horrible start, and we're going to watch it. But here's my thought with Giant Mischief, Pete. To me, his effort in the Springboard Mile was more indicative of a bad field that he was facing rather than some kind of big visual monster close where he was passing horses. That's my opinion. I think it's a little bit deceiving that he can handle the 2 turns because of the Springboard Mile. Because I think the field was weak. Am I making any sense? I'll go and show the replay. You can expound on that, Pete.
My biggest question with this horse, because I like this horse, when we did our Derby, remember we did our early Derby prediction.
He's the 5, guys. He's the 5. Go ahead.
I had mentioned this horse and said my only question was potentially the distance could get to this one. The thing I actually didn't love the ride, aside from the fact that it starts way back there and he's sort of screwed right from the jump. I thought when he finally decides to move with him, I
too
like the
early,
move.
Pete.
Yeah, it was too early and it was too much.
Early.
You didn't need to go do that much, especially after that bad break and making up that. I'm glad you said it, Paul, because that's the
But
first
isn't he
thing.
doing it on his own, guys? He's not really being asked to do it, is he?
No, but that doesn't mean you let him. I mean, you gotta.
He's just cruising up, guys. He's not really being asked, in my opinion. I mean,
well, just because you're asked doesn't mean it's not taking something out of you after a bad start like that.
Okay,
and
fair enough.
You're still. It's only his third race. He's still figuring things out. Now he's sort of hung 3 wide, and I actually
9 got a dream trip on the 9.
Dream trip.
Yeah, and
I just don't like this
that
right
horse.
here. I know he got an awful start and made a middle move, but I don't know. I could be totally wrong, Pete, but I think he's going to be, and this close here to me is more, this horse is getting tired on the front end. This is not like some kind of monster close to me, but I guess it's all in the eye of the beholder, right, guys? I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I think you just have to like that there was fight. So he made that move. He broke bad, made that big move, couldn't get there, looked like he was sort of in place a bit, and then just fought to the end. Again, it's a leap of faith because you're hoping that this horse is good. And the one thing I do like is since then, he's been working lights out. So if he's coming back strong, and he already had 95s and 91s at 2, which a lot of these horses can't even get to at 3, if he could still move forward. But again, maybe the Derby's too far, but I don't think this mile and whatever this is, the mile and 8,
mile 16,
mile 16.
And you pick up this guy named Irad.
Yeah, he's decent,
Jr.
right?
I'm sorry, who?
He's all right.
I was by the way, we didn't talk about Howard. I was at Gulfstream the day he won 7 in a row. It was quite a thing.
Oh yeah, that's right. Paul, I think I don't know what's going to happen. Giant Mischief, Saturday going for whatever. Giant Mischief would be one of my early morning line favorites to win either the Woody Stevens or the H. Allen Jerkins. I think this, or even maybe the Pat Day Mile. I think he's very talented. I think he's Jack Christopher 2.0. I don't know if he's going to be as good as Jack Christopher, but I get a real strong Jack Christopher vibe.
Yeah, I think you need to take a Valium for a minute there, just to calm down. Okay, that's what I think.
Wow.
Okay. It could be, but let's let's.
I'm not saying he's talented. I'm that kind of style.
Jack Christopher.
Let's give him a shot at the
no
big
disrespect to the Springboard Mile, of whom no horses come out of to win a race.
All right. Paul, Reincarnate.
Yes.
I don't like Reincarnate at all. Pete does not like him at all. Tell us why we're wrong.
I'm really torn here. He did show a lot of, he's 16-1 last time. He beat Newgate, who came back to win with 100 buyer. He did show a lot of fight in that race. It's Baffert, despite what you see on your program, that Yakteen, it's Velasquez.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know what I mean? He's right in the middle. He should get a good trip from there. I mean, I'm not lining up to play the horse within the race, but as far as the sequence, I think he is definitely in the mix.
Pete, I just thought there's too much speed. There's speed on the inside. You got confidence game. I mean, what is? There's 2 Frosted Departures. Got to go. I mean, I'll give you one bomb, and then we're gonna move on, guys. The number 9. This is my total bomb key in like 3rd or 4th if you play supers. Event Details, trained by Paul Lobo. This is OXO Equine. On paper, he's one of the few horses that can close in a race that's got a ton of speed up in it, and it's a City of Light who's improving. I think Event Details a chance, guys, to clunk up somewhere. I'm just going to throw that horse out there in case he does. And if he doesn't at 35-1, then I'm a complete idiot.
Wait, we know who's hitting the board, and you didn't give Paul a chance. Paul, you don't want to talk about your Red Route 1?
What happened?
Oh
my goodness! What the hell?
Come on.
And I like this horse too. I'm so sorry, Paul.
But Paul, I gotta tell you, I played a cold exact the last time with him second, and I'm watching the replay. I'm watching the replay today, saying, "How in God's green earth did I hit this?" This horse was 10 lengths out of second to last, going to the far turn. And was it the wet track? I just
Way
think
back
the horse
here.
could, yeah, look at him. He does make a good inside out move here. It was a good ride by Santana. He stayed in until he didn't have to stay in. I don't know what's he going by. I don't know if those horses are any good. Frosted Departure is in this race, but still here you're thinking he's certainly not going to run second. Maybe he'll run third, but boy, when he gets in a stride very late here and he flies by this horse, and I had him on the board last time. I'm certainly gonna, you could have a similar scenario here where Howard, you talked about speed, and if 3 or 4 horses get contentious, there's going to be some leg weary horses in the stretch.
Big underneath play for me. I'm just going to leave it at that. Subscribe to our Power Picks. You'll hear more about Red Route 1. Paul, the reason why he didn't explode in the stretch to me was he didn't switch leads. He was on his left lead the whole way. If he can grow up a little bit and be a little bit closer, and there's a meltdown, he's a B from right now, Paul. This horse would not surprise me. I'm very interested in this horse. Pete, final thoughts. We need to move on.
No, I like that. He's a B for me too. That's one of those that just needs to get out of his own way, get a little closer, and get a pace. And if you look at him though, he's run against like Forte Loggins, then 2 Phils, who's acquitted himself really well this year. Instant Coffee, then Arabian Night. Like he's running against the top. He's losing, I should say, to the top line Derby potential horses. So he's going to catch one of these. It feels like.
This is a fascinating stat, Paul. I'd like to move on, but this is a great stat from Richard Flax. Can you read the stat, Paul? And then what's your opinion on that in general?
He says, for what it's worth, Pletcher is 9% when the closing odds are 5-1 to 9-1. My only point, I'd like to see the sample size because he's not often over 5-1, but that's a valid point.
So we're saying that if he's live, he's going to win. If he's not live, he doesn't win. Right? I'm basically.
He's been fairly live the last several weekends.
Yeah. Well, that tells me 2 things. He's got a lot of talented horses, number 1. And number 2, which is underrated for trainers, as you both know, he spots his horses very well. Maybe you're right about that 4, Pete, in the Honeybee, or the Honeybee, right? Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. Let's go on the last race, guys. The last race is not the most talented horses of this pick 5 sequence. As Paul, you just want to skip the race and move on to our.
Well, no, but look, I understand. You got to hit 5 out of 5. I get it, but there's got to be there's a stakes race immediately preceding the sequence. The 7th race, I believe, Howard, if you go to your Equibase, is a stakes race.
Okay.
Is there any reason why that race couldn't be this race and the Arkansas breds not be part of the pick 5, or do we really need them as part of the pick 5?
Yes, because the management wants to get as much money as possible, and if you have a stake race at the end, people might not want to stay for it.
Oh, I don't know. But I just want to say ahead of time.
I'm being a bit cheeky. I understand what you're saying.
If I'm 4 for 4 and I lose this race, I'm going to be very bitter next week. So I'll tell you ahead of time.
As opposed to your normal sunny disposition.
That's correct, Pete. Thank you for noticing that, Peter.
I do, of course. All
right,
it is what it is. I'm 5 deep in my pick 5, so I'll shut up and we can talk about the race.
All right, so this is maiden special weight Archie bred, 6 furlongs, $90,000 purse for these high quality animals, Paul. It's a field of 12 with a bunch of also eligibles. Oh my goodness,
Paul, just single. You got the right horse. Just single. We and you. We got the right horse. So let's just single then. Sorry.
Okay. Moreline favorite number 10, Time and Beyond for Moquette and Bejarano. Paul, since you're a little bit grumpy with this race, I'll let you go first. With Shake Up, Calhoun, Arietta, 8-1 morning line, bam, crushed this last race. What do you like about this one?
Well, again, I went through the race, Howard. I did watch a few replays. I went through the race and I looked for logicals on the training side, on the jockey side. Obviously, class is not an issue because it's a maiden special, but Arietta is very solid. Calhoun, this horse has got a 59. That looks like to be right around where you need to be. There's some horses in the low to mid 60s, nothing beyond that. I think the post will be fine. I was torn between him and an Asmussen first timer. But when I see an Asmussen first timer at 8-1 morning line, that means they don't think he's going to take that much money. And it's a Bill Heilebrod horse, very big time owners. If an Asmussen's going off 8-1 first time, that's not a good sign, but I'm not going to get beat by him. So, I'm rambling, but I think the one, I don't think he'll be 8-1, but he will be a straight A on my ticket.
Pete, Paul, you mentioned the 6. You got the 6-second, who's just consistent. Has a lot of speed. Hasn't quite got the job done. Has been a money burner, and then
Right.
the 4 and third, the first time starter. Pete, you're a little interested in this 2, Skyped, who is 0 for 9, but it's also improving.
There's a couple. So the Burrell is 0 for 28 here.
Oh, Calvin,
and I hate Calvin. I hate Calvin Burrell. I despise him.
Whoa.
Pete, you're the man. Pete.
Whoa, wait a minute. Whoa, you hate?
Yeah.
That's a strong word.
It's sports hate, like sports hate,
Yeah.
like you
Why?
hate a sports.
I
don't know. He bugs the shit out of me. Sorry to curse.
We keep it real on this show. Okay.
Pete,
anyway, go ahead.
Pete, can you remember for us to have this conversation at the barbecue in Saratoga?
Yes, we need to have this with some beers.
I could not agree with you anymore.
Wow.
What you just said,
hey, Paul,
and the fact that he's in the look at nothing against anyone, but he struck lightning in the Derby 3 times. God love him. He seems to be a good guy, so it's not real life hate. But as a jockey, no thank you. And he can beat me in a maiden race, or he can beat me in a stakes race. At this point in his career, no thank you.
Yeah, my cousin will be at the barbecue and get a few beers in him, and he'll really go off too. So we'll.
Yeah, I've met Pete's cousin. That's going to be interesting.
Good. Yeah. But this whole, aside from that, this horse is pretty good. And since the trainer change, even though Renee Burrell is 0 for 16, so we're not exactly locking it up with the jockey trainer combination here. But I thought this horse made the winning move in the last one and just got beat. And Willow Creek Road is actually a pretty good horse. I forget, came back maybe out of that and won again, or just looks good when you look at Willow Creek Road's PPs. So it's just one of those where I'm like, it's a pretty good horse. I'm not going to let Burrell completely throw me off. A good horse. He's 7 out of 11 in the money. It's one of those though that you don't like, because the higher, once you get into the double-digit maidens, I know Howard, you don't like that too, right? We get
I don't. Although it did burn me 2 weeks ago, but
because
I don't like it in general. No, who does? Does anyone like it?
I don't think you like it, but it's at least this horse is hitting the board and running well. So, eventually you're going to just catch one of them. They generally don't stay maidens forever. They usually get one at some point. So this one, 2 out of the last 3 in the 64 buyers. So it's sort of at the top end. It's just a hard one to leave off your ticket. That's basically all I'm at.
Not to be argumentative, Pete, but just for the viewers and listeners at home, they do usually win, but they usually win at a lower class than they drop down for main claiming. So
yeah, but
I don't know if that's what you meant, or if you meant in this class level.
We're still talking state bred, so we're not at the highest levels anyway. We're not an open company, so I think it's not like anybody else in here is lighting a fire under anybody's butt anyway.
Guys, this is a 2-horse race, and you're both missing the boat. Okay, there we go. 2-horse race.
Wow.
I love Midnight Taxes. I don't know. I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. We're not going to talk long. We got to move on.
I have 2 lovely stats for you. Like, I love poo-pooing your horses.
I love when you poo-poo
stats.
I love poo-pooing.
I wish I knew if it actually worked.
Throw that poo-poo at me.
I wish I knew if one or the other was actually right. We should track that if we were.
All right. I'll tell you what. We're going to let the people at home that are watching. We still have a lot of people watching. We're almost done, folks. We appreciate it. We'll let the people at home decide if the stats are more important or if my opinions are more important in this race. Midnight Taxes, real quick. Did you see this horse face in his first 2? Newgate, Hard to Figure, National Treasure, Massimo, and Pratchville Move.
I'll tell you what, he barely was beaten too.
I know, he was barely beaten. I agree. He lost by 16.5 and 10.
If you stopped it at the gate, Paul, he barely was beaten. But
let me ask you guys a question, honestly, though. The second start, does the second start of his life not win this race? Possibly.
It could.
He lost by 10.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Then they put him on turf. Why did they put him on turf, guys? Look at the breeding, because I looked it up. I looked at this horse a lot. This horse does have some turf breeding. and so the siblings. You can see here, Amalfi Coast was actually a nice horse. Nice horses, actually, right? So I understand why they put this Archie bred on turf. Makes sense. Okay, ran nothing great. Buyers don't improve. Switched to Hartman, gelded, first time Lasix, back with Arkansas breds, working well, and guys, the switch to Chris Hartman as a trainer, 17% on the win end, 45% in the money. With the jockey guys with Juarez, 23% win, 73% in the money. Nice. Intent is all over the place on this horse. And I know he's run a bunch of 60s and it doesn't look that impressive. I love this horse. I think this horse is going to win if he breaks. The one thing I don't like about the 10, and then we're going to close with our pick 5. Guys, did you see the works on this 10? I was about to single this 10 until I looked. Where's this horse been? Like, what? Ran on the 11th, worked on the 22nd, no works in 2 months, and it was a slow work. I know it's Moquette. I know it's Bejarano, and maybe this 10 can win, guys, but, like, that is bad. That is bad. I don't know what's going on. That is bad news for me. All right.
Oh, he had throw
the poo-poo at me with the 7, Pete. Throw the poo-poo.
Go ahead,
Paul.
What are you going to say something,
Well, I was
Paul?
going to say the 10 had no excuse last time. The horse that beat him ran 7th coming off that race.
Yeah.
And horses coming out of that race are 0 for 7, and every 6 of them had buyers go down in their next start. So a real negative race coming out of.
All right, throw the poo-poo at me, Pete.
All right, real quick. So Hartman, who's been a monster and has all such good stats.
Yeah.
Hartman, maidens. So first after the trainer switch, which he's normally good, but with maidens in dirt races, which I like to use dirt or turf separately, 1 for 35. So when you're talking about the first after the trainer switch with just maidens, yeah.
Okay,
So he must be just really good.
That's interesting.
And then 0 for 19 turf to dirt in maiden special weight. So those two, I looked at those.
That one I'm less worried about because it's such a big drop to Archie breds. The first stat I will.
Yeah, the second one, I'm not a huge turf to dirt if it's like, hey, I've run on dirt before. So if it's like they put that stat up if you have one turf race and then you come back. But still, there's two enough. And there's a lot of change, trainer change, like you said, gelding and first-time Lasix. There's a lot going on. So who the hell knows how that's all going to affect the horse? Maybe all good. It might be great.
To me, the most important, I mean, we're both stat guys, Pete. To me, throw all that out the window. To me, it's the class drop. This is a massive class drop. Massive.
Yeah.
Anyway, Paul, we're going to go first with your pick 5 ticket, and because we missed you last week, buddy. I don't know why I have 8.9. That should be 8,9. Paul's got 8.9 with 2.49 with 2.7 with 1.56 with 1.46 7.10. It is a $90 ticket. Paul, quickly on your construction.
Yeah, I was torn, Howard, between kind of the equal spread I have, and I was going to really lean on verifying, to be honest with you, either single or maybe 2 deep. But I'm going to try to get by with 2 horses and 2 legs. I do like that Albizu, the horse we talked about earlier today. And then in the 3rd leg, we talked about Wet Paint, and I did throw in Towhead. I just want to be 5 deep in that race in the last leg. And I did, because I do like verifying a lot, but I do think that is a pretty contentious race. I ended up going 3 deep, at least in this structure, which I will be playing ABC and not this structure.
Terrific. Pete, you are going 1.56 with 2.9 with 1.247 with 1.5 with 1.210, $72. And Pete, you know what happened to me last week with my pick 5 at Fairgrounds, although I did get revenge the next day as I tweeted out, but we both were all over the 6 to some extent in the last race. And then, of course, I was only singled to one horse who didn't win. So I was extremely frustrated. But I wanted to throw kudos. You and I had really good ideas in the pick 5 last week. It just didn't quite work out. Talk about this pick 5.
Yeah, I blame DRF Ticketmaker and my laziness for not wanting to do an ABC because I couldn't. I would have to key in all the tickets. And the hype around Who's Your Philly really pisses me off because that was one where when you look at, if it wasn't Who's Your Philly, if it wasn't that name and you just looked at figures, we would have said, oh, this is a chalk you could beat based on figures. but because it was Who's Your Filly and you get all the hype, I think that's soaked in, and you just sort of said, you know what, I'm just going to single it. Why waste money?
Hey,
on the
by
other
the way,
one?
we've Mr. Chop Chop on the bottom of the screen. How did Chop Chop do last week, Paul? Uh-oh, he's silent.
He finished Sunday
She.
morning.
Okay.
She finished Sunday morning.
Sorry. Go ahead, Pete, with your ticket.
So in the first leg, I the one thing I didn't like about the sequence, I mean, I like the sequence. I feel like with my picks, it could potentially be a little bit chalky if everything broke wrong. So I'm hoping that's not the case, and there's some prices in there. First leg, I have the 2 favorites, but I also have the 5, which I like it at 12-1. Second leg, you sort of have to go skinny because the logical horses are the favorites. So you have to sort of pick 1 or 2 depending on how you want to go. I picked the 2 that I like, Life is Hard and Golden Hornet. And then in the third, I went a little deep because I like Wet Paint a lot, but I like 2 big prices. So I like the 1 effortlessly elegant and gambling girl, that Pletcher horse. So I'm like, I really like those 2. So that's the race where I think if you could catch a bomb, that's the 2 that I actually like a bomb. Verifying Giant Mischief, nothing too exciting there. And then I only went 3 deep in the last with that 10 instead of the 7 as my third horse, just because that's a wide open race. That's one where A, B, C, I'm going to have horses on all 3 levels because who the hell knows?
Yeah, it looks like a lot of people might have to save some money for that last race, depending on how you feel. All right, guys, here we go. The question. Who is Howard singling? Now, Noah already chimed in. Wet Paint as the single, maybe? What do you guys think? A single, no single, 2 singles?
I'll go with Noah.
I'll go with Noah as well.
Yep. I almost did what you did, Paul. I was really thinking about singling Verifying. I really thought about it because I think he's a really nice horse. But you know what? There's so much speed there. I don't know. I didn't trust it. I did single someone. And you guys are, well, Pete, you're probably not going to like this single. Midnight Taxes on the end, baby. There you go.
You're not gonna like that single. I like it fine because that horse is.
Oh, everyone remember this. What is it? It's the 123 mark. Pete, when this horse wins by 4, I don't want any predictions. Full apologies next week.
I don't want any predictions associated with that last leg. So I wiped that comment, stricken that from the record because I don't trust any horse in there. So go ahead.
I'm not even sure I even trust my single, but there's too many things I like about him. 689 with 1249 with 23478 with 135 with 7. I could single Verifying. If I was playing Caveman, I'd probably single Verifying on 1 ticket and back up with others. I could also single Wet Paint. The only reason I'm not, guys, I just don't trust these 3-year-old fillies. I guess that's really stinking thinking, because what does one race have to do with another? But what if it comes up dry, or what if the pace doesn't develop? I don't know. I do like Wet Paint a lot. That would be my other single. If you don't single the last race, you gotta go what, 4, 5, 6, 7 deep. I really like the 7 a lot for all the reasons I mentioned. I'm singling 7 on the end. It's a $90 ticket, guys. Bring up the closing banner and wrap up the show. Paul, any final thoughts for Oaklawn, for Saudi? Anything in your world you want to share as we get deeper into these Kentucky Derby preps now?
No, I look forward to watching your Saudi show, Howard. And I would just say that I'm rooting for a horse called, I think it's Merras, Merras. Is it in the sprint maybe? Because riding will be Abner Adorno, who is a day-to-day Parks-based jockey, hardworking guy. His wife, Maria, was the exercise rider for Brooklyn Strong, who ran in the Kentucky Derby, New York bred. And Abner has had some wins at Aqueduct this winter, has driven up to Aqueduct. But boy, would I love to see a Parks guy take home 10% of one of those shares. So I will be rooting for that horse.
A lot of early speed. The horse name is called Maras, but close enough. Interviewed by the wonderful Jessica Paquette, I saw on Twitter a few days ago also, before he flew to Dubai. Pete, final thoughts about the weekend or anything else?
Yeah, I hope this in the race here. I hope we get a big performance. You want to see starting to see some big Derby performances, and that's what we're waiting for.
No, we don't. No, we don't, Howard.
Well, we want to see them. I mean, then I mean we're gonna get another rich strike, Paul. You know, your
No, we're not.
your horse
No,
is
we're
gonna
not.
clear. Your horse is gonna clear, and it's gonna look at the lead. You're gonna be screaming, and then all of a sudden, some 150 to 1 shot's gonna come and
Hey,
catch
Pete,
you.
Lightning doesn't strike twice, and Santa Claus only comes once.
That's
Okay?
true. That's true.
Yeah,
I agree, though, Pete. It would be good to see someone kind of, because we certainly don't want Arabian Night to win the goddamn thing.
No, I don't. I'll say right now, guys, I do think we're going to see a good performance on Saturday from someone.
I agree.
Really do.
I hope so.
It's been a great show. Really appreciate it, everyone. Please comment down below the video player if you have any questions. And if you're going to the NHC in 2 weeks, either just as a fan or you're actually qualified, down below the video player, make a comment, and I'd be happy to talk to you through the comments and hopefully in person as well. For my
Howard will buy you a drink. Howard happily will buy you a drink.
Sure, with Paul's money. For my great
Absolutely.
co-hosts, Pete Visco and Paul Howard, I'll buy you a drink, everyone. Actually, Matt Miller might buy them a drink. This is your host, Howard Kravitz, with episode 233 of the HHH Racing Podcast. Crush those bets Saturday at Oaklawn. Take care, everyone. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Night.
If you have not followed his Triple H Horse Racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.